I'm Luis Scott, managing partner of Bader Scott Injury Lawyers, one of the fastest growing law firms in the country, and I'm also the co-founder of 8-Figure Firm Consulting. I've successfully built multiple companies by focusing on leadership, operations, and culture. Using these principles, my companies have generated close to $100 million in revenue. But before any of this success, I started my legal career as a receptionist, and I worked my way up to becoming managing partner. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with leaders and entrepreneurs who have had the guts to step out on their own and the courage to face adversity. They share with us their tips for achievement, the challenges they have faced, and the glory of success. I welcome you to the Guts and Glory Show.
Chad Franzen here, one of the co-hosts of the Guts and Glory Show. We feature top leaders who share challenges of leadership, the guts it takes to succeed, and the glory of success. This episode is brought to you by 8-Figure Firm Consulting. At 8-Figure Firm, they help law firms grow to 8 figures. Louis Scott was telling me when he started his career, he was working over 80 hours a week to make partner, and that he finally started his own law firm and wished he had someone walking him through the steps to growth. At 8-Figure Firm, they show you how to develop a business that works for you instead of you working for it. Go to 8figurefirm.com to learn more. Today we have Noemi Puntier, founder and owner of Puntier Law Firm, a boutique firm exclusively representing immigrants in family and immigration matters. She also hosts a radio show where she educates listeners on the latest legal issues and is part of the #Heels in the Courtroom movement, where she combines faith, law, and entrepreneurship to encourage and uplift female attorneys. Noemi, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm great, Chad. Happy to be here with you.
It's great to have you. So tell me a little bit more about your law firm and the kinds of clients you serve.
Well, we are exclusively, I like to say exclusively because it's like 99% immigrants that we represent. And we fight to keep them here in the United States to get them legal status, to protect them from family separation. So anything that has to do with maintaining the integrity and the peacefulness of immigrants that are undocumented in Georgia, we try to aim to achieve that while we represent them.
Can you tell me, before we get more into your legal practice, can you tell me a little bit about what life was like for you growing up?
Well, that's a very inspiring story. I am an immigrant myself. I came to New York, the United States, when I was approximately 9 years old. Grew up in very, very humble beginnings. We like to call them the projects in the Bronx. And we were very humble. And that's another word for poor. So my upbringing was very hard, but it was also very blessed. It taught me perseverance. It taught me to dream bigger and always look for that shiny light because, we grew up in very, very different and difficult situations in the Bronx. And being an attorney was not my first passion, ironically. My first passion was just to serve and help others. And I didn't really know what that meant or what that was going to look like. But I knew that being poor and an immigrant and a woman and being the first person to even attend college or graduate high school in my generation, in our family history, it meant that I needed to find a place where I can contribute and give more to the world. So I went to school and I said, well, when I graduate college, I'm just going to be a social worker, right? Because social workers help everybody. And I did that in Harlem for quite a while. Then I got tired. I got a little bit overwhelmed and I got promoted to another non-for-profit organization where I led a group of women who were coming out of being in the welfare system, now getting on their feet and gaining employment, getting back into the employment field. And after a while, I came to the point that I said, I want to do more. And where can I elevate myself to? What can I do to put me in a position that I will have a bigger voice and a greater impact in our community? So I said, well, I'm going to go to law school. And
wow.
And Chad, that's what I did, but I didn't know any lawyers. So I had no clue how I was going to get to law school. All I knew is that lawyers were powerful and I want to be powerful and I wanted to help people, right?
So there was no legal issue or something like that you had been involved in that made you decide to become an attorney. You just wanted more influence.
Yes, it was more about a platform to be able to fight bigger fights and have a bigger voice in the community. So I'm a planner, and I started figuring out like, what do you need to do to get into law school? And I figure that I need to meet a lawyer, right? Talk to one lawyer at least. So I was very blessed that I knew someone who knew the supervising judge in the Bronx, and she kind of took me under her wings. I started volunteering in small claims court, and that's where I met my mentor, Sally Mansonet Daniels. She's now in the appellate division, and she really, really nurtured our relationship. She gave me everything I didn't have when I was growing up. I saw a lot of myself in her. She was the first Puerto Rican woman to be appointed to the Supreme Court in the Bronx, and she had a drive and a desire to help others. And I gravitated towards that. And I think she also saw the hunger in me and helped me just, navigate the law school system. And then I got into law school, I graduated, and here I am.
So what did you do in between law school and starting Puntier Law Firm?
So I knew I wanted, you see, I always know what I want, right? It always starts with serving. So I said, where can I serve bigger and have a greater opportunity to make a bigger impact? So I wanted to be a public defender. And that's what I did. I was a legal aid society. I worked for the Legal Aid Society as a public defender. And we had a negative reputation because, public defenders, they're looked at as overwhelmed, overworked. They don't care. And I said, I'm going to be the difference. I'm going to be that one public defender that's going to try cases the right way, that's going to grow rapidly, that's going to make an impact in the field, that's going to make an impact in the lives of their clients, that will really defend what they're fighting for and protect them and not make sure they get railroaded in the system. And I did that. And I grew very quickly in my field. So I did that for like 5 years, and then I got burned out again. So it's a pattern of this burnout. So I had to learn how to just pace myself and then really seek what is it that I want to do long term. And I made a promise to myself that if I was ever hesitant to return a client's phone call, then it was time for me to switch careers. So from there, I went to do personal injury at a very, very big law firm on Wall Street. So I went from the ghetto, being a public defender, to this wonderful window across, which was back then, where the Twin Towers were. And that's when I realized that my calling really is being on the ground, helping those that can help themselves. And then I went on my own.
What was it about your life growing up that made you so passionate about serving? I know people who grew up maybe in humble circumstances, and they're like, well, I'm gonna make more money than my parents ever made, and I'm gonna be rich or whatever. But you just wanted to help people. What was it about your upbringing that made that come about?
I think I've, unbeknownst to me, but now that I look back, I've always had this grace upon me where I always found other individuals that were willing to help me. And I also learned at a very young age that it was gratifying to help some other people. It brought a certain joy into my life. And I think it's part of my identity, just sort of getting that feeling of, wow, I can make a difference in someone's life. Because when you make a difference in one person's life, that it has a domino effect into our world, our society, where our children are living, and you just never know, you pay it forward. And I think it was that drive and that feeling of always wanting to give more, because I felt I was highly blessed, even though I grew up in very humble beginnings.
So how did you get started with your own law firm?
Well, I'm originally, I'm born in New York and licensed there. And then I came here. I'm licensed here as well in Georgia. But I came at an earlier age in my career. So when I come to Georgia, I couldn't find work. Ironically, it's like, yes, you're experienced, but you're just learning Georgia law. And I went to interview for a particular firm here in Georgia, and they were doing immigration. And I saw this huge crowd of immigrants just desperately waiting to see this attorney, right? And I was like, wow, this is my place, right? Like, this is where my ministry is going to take place. I can help all these people. And I remember speaking to the owner, and I said, when are you going to make a decision about an attorney? And he said, probably like in a day or two. And I remember, getting into my car in the parking lot and telling my husband, this is the place where I'm going to just make so many people happy. And after 2 days, I emailed the owner of the firm, and I said, hey, have you made a decision? And he never responded. And to me, I believe that the way you behave or the way you do one thing is how you do everything in life. And I remember having a conversation with my husband saying, that says a lot about that attorney, that he didn't take out a minute or two to thank me, because I also said, hey, I can refer you cases, but just out of, professionalism and just courtesy, say it was great meeting you, but I'm giving the job to someone else. So I said to myself, if someone with that level of character can have such a successful firm here, then I think I have a chance. And that's what I did.
Great. Congratulations.
One of my
own. Very nice. So what's a favorite story that you have from your practice so far? I'm sure you have several, but
I have several. Yes, but I'm going to give you the funniest one, which is when I was a public defender. So I defended this boxer, and he really beat up the other guy, right? So he gets arrested. He beats up this other guy. And I'm like, nobody wants to try the case. And of course, I'm like, yeah, I want to be the best trial lawyer, so I'll take the case. And I develop a good practice as an attorney, where I will always seek those that had more knowledge than I did, or that were in a position where I saw myself or where I wanted to be. So I will ask all these senior lawyers to prep with me. And, it was a self-defense. So this, experienced boxer is coming here to say he was defending himself from this other boxer. And I remember the eve of trial, I go into one particular attorney and I say, hey, I'm trying this case tomorrow. Let me tell you my theory. And the victim is this guy, and he's also a boxer. And he looks at me, he says, wait a minute, who's your victim again? We don't call them victim. We say the complaining witness as defense attorneys. And I mentioned his name, and he said, wait a minute, that guy is the only professional boxer who has been indicted for killing someone while he was fighting. I said, are you kidding me? He says, yes. And he pulls out this from the internet, this newspaper article. He says, yes, this guy, when he had a fight, he put in some illegal, I don't know if it was cement or something, that when he punched the other boxer, he really injured him, and he was arrested for this. And I said, I'm going to use this. So I won the case because I was able to destroy this particular complaining witness / victim when he came there saying, oh, I was hurt and it wasn't self-defense. I really, presented him as this evil person who had injured, this other boxer in the history of boxing in the Bronx. And I think that was interesting, because that goes to show that you never stop learning. You always got to seek other advice from other attorneys that are higher or in a different level than you're in.
Sure. Very nice. Speaking of that, I'd love to talk about some other lessons learned in your practice journey. How did you discover 8-figure firm and Luis Scott?
Well, I think I mentioned this to Luis, but he may not recall. So I saw Luis's picture on Facebook, and it was a picture of him on his desk, and he had his arm raised, and it was resting on a couple of books. And there's just something about that picture that it sent me a message, right? I'm a woman of faith, so I believe that it was God's way of connecting us. So he didn't know me, and I didn't know him. And I said, you know what, this guy it seems like he has something very good to offer. And I just continued following him for years. This is before he was, before he was owner of Bader & Scott. And I just continued following his growth as a professional. And finally, when he did his mastermind here in Georgia, I reached out and I said, hey, can I attend? And that's when, our little relationship started. So I had been a fan of his for a very long time, and I saw how he was just growing and growing and growing.
What are some lessons that you'd say you learned from him so far?
The best thing about Luis, aside from the fact that he has integrity and a great reputation, is that he gives you a blueprint of what you need to be doing and where you need to get to. He is not your regular mentor, your regular mastermind group where he's teaching you stuff that he learned from somebody else. This is an individual who took a firm from a certain level and raised it to a position where they're one of the fastest growing law firms in Atlanta. So when I meet with Luis, I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth. He's telling me the mistakes he's made. He's telling me what needs to be done. So when I tell him my vision and what I want, it's very easy for him to say, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you're doing right, and this is how you're going to get there.
Can you give me an example maybe of, I speak to a lot of people who they're very skilled and talented attorneys, but, in terms of running their own business or whatever, there's a few things that they may need to catch up on. Can you give me an example maybe of how kind of Luis's advice changed your practice a little bit?
Well, the confidence that comes with the knowledge that he gives you is priceless, because it all starts with the confidence. The minute you have the confidence, then you're starting to implement the things that he's telling you. But he really gives you a game plan. So as a business owner, I was just an attorney. I was being passionate. I was, meeting with clients and trying to grow the firm and also go to court. But when you meet with Luis, you understand that the passion needs a plan. He's not telling you to get rid of the passion, but he's saying, let's take this passion and now let me give you let me give you a game plan so you could achieve what you want. And this is what you're doing wrong. So let's start doing this. And you just start seeing yourself at a position that now you're a business owner, not just an attorney. So you make decisions differently, you hire differently, and you start having meetings with a different view and a different objective at the end. You're just not rolling with the punches, which is what we do. We roll with the punches because we're just trying to be lawyers. He basically equips you with the tools so you can do what you want and run your firm as a business.
Since this is the Guts and Glory show, we like to get some more stories from the people we talk to. Can you tell me a story that involved guts, like something that where you overcame something? It took some guts to get there.
Well, yes, we had a case in Georgia where we filed, it was an immigration case where we filed a motion to suppress. And it took a lot of guts to go forward in front of this judge and make these arguments that the officers from ICE did something unconstitutional and therefore this client should not be in removal proceedings. And we won. And it was, I think, the first case that happened in Georgia. But, then the media got involved and that changed things. But it took a lot of guts to take that approach because it had not been done before.
What about a glory story? Something where, you were kind of very proud.
Oh my good. Yes. Well, one that I'm extremely proud is a consultation of a client that came to me for a work permit. He was here undocumented for over 7 years. He entered with a tourist visa. Somehow he got a work permit through a humanitarian parole program. He comes to me, I interview him, and we realized that he was actually a United States citizen. So that's a glory story.
Well, yeah.
Imagine being undocumented, right? And then you go to meet with an attorney about a work permit, and she's able to, based on the questioning and your family history, determine that you, in fact, obtain your citizenship from your father, who was a United States citizen when he was born. So now he's a United States citizen. He was all along. Now he's petitioning his wife. He's petitioning his mother. He's petitioning his stepdad. And it's just a domino effect of discovering that one beautiful miracle that he was not aware of.
Can you tell me about your radio show? I mentioned that a little bit in the introduction.
Yes. So in my radio show, it's really an opportunity for me as a woman of faith, as an entrepreneur, and as an attorney to combine my passion while I'm there. So I do a lot of encouragement for women to just go and do, what they wish for, what's in their heart. Also, I encourage my clients to utilize prayer in their cases. So it's really a space where we're talking about the latest legal news, but then we're going to plug in a little bit of Christ in there. And then we're also going to give you some motivation for 30 minutes. So, and that's what we do every Tuesday and Thursday.
Good for you. Very nice. I just have one more question for you, but first, can you just tell me how people can find your radio show and also find more about your law firm?
Yes. So they can follow me on Instagram, Heels in the Courtroom. That's where you can see me post a lot about my faith and my business. On Facebook is Abogada, which is attorney in Spanish, Noemi Puntier. Or you can also go to my Instagram for my firm, which is Puntier Law Firm. And the radio station is FM 100.9. And I'm there every Tuesday and Thursday from 5:10 to 5:40. And I also, put it in Facebook. So if they follow me on Facebook, they'll see the show there.
Okay, very nice. Final question for you. You mentioned your mentor. Can you tell me who that is again? And then just maybe tell me some of their best advice for you.
It's Sally Mansonet Daniels. She is a judge in the appellate division in New York. And one of her best advice is to just go for what you want and not be afraid, to be unapologetic about your dreams, to be smart and to never give up. And that's what she does every day. And that's what she did for me when I met her so many years back. And I haven't stopped dreaming ever since then.
Great. Hey, great. It was been great to talk to you today, Noemi. I really appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show with Louise Scott. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share. For more information on this episode, please see the show notes at www.gutsandgloryshow.com. And join us next time as we talk to another leader in business that had the guts to overcome all odds for the glory of success.